Yo, what is up, everybody? This is K-Rail, Chief Fitness Advisor for Pine Pond Superfoods and Train for Longevity. I am live in my living room right now, but by the time you watch this, it probably won't be live. I am super excited to have an awesome guest on the show, my good friend and fitness confidant, Mr. Zach Blain, all the way from the Pacific Northwest. We'll get to him more in a second, but I first have to tell you this. If you're looking for some good, clean, wholesome supplements made from whole foods extracts, look no further than Pine Pond Superfoods. And we are always in the generous mood. So make sure to go to the website and punch in Pollen10, all in capital letters, for a 10% discount. What do you think about that? And I absolutely love this stuff. I'm not only an ambassador of it, but I'm also a client too, just like Cy Sperling was. Maybe I should talk to Cy Sperling. What do you think? Yeah, I forget it. I'm bald. Who cares? It's just hair. There's more important things in life, such as getting in the best shape of your life, staying in the best shape of your life, fasting, fitness, health, hugs, human connection, looking someone in the eye, putting your damn cell phone down for 2 seconds when you're at a dinner table out at a restaurant. Those are the finer things in life. Those are the more important things in life. And to make matters even better, I've got my good friend Zach Blain on today. Zach is a very well-schooled fitness professional, and if you haven't looked him up on Facebook, I highly suggest it now. Do it absolutely immediately when you're done. This guy does some really crazy things, and people have accused me of being crazy, but this cat is crazy as well. And it's funny because when you talk to him, he's got about 1/10 the energy that I have right now, if not that. But when you see him out there on the gym floor or dance floor, whatever you want to call it, because he kind of doubles as a dancer too, the guy has some amazing things. Now, we're not here to talk about his amazing feats of strength. You're going to follow him, you're going to watch his stuff whenever you have time. We're talking about his New Year's resolution to follow the OMAD, which is a form of fasting known as 1 meal a day. I've also known people call it the OMAN because they do 1 meal at night. I'm going to talk about that with Zach. I am a fasting specialist myself. I'm in the movie Fasting. If you haven't seen the movie Fasting, I highly suggest you see that because it answers a lot of questions. It dots a lot of I's, it crosses a lot of T's. But Zach has been deploying some intermittent fasting strategies over the past couple of years. He's asked me a couple questions. He's now poised. He made a New Year's resolution to do the OMAD for an entire year. I am absolutely blown away by this, and I'm super excited to talk to him about it today, and I think it's going to be very educational for all of you people out there who are looking to go deeper into the bowels of fasting, especially the 1 meal a day protocol. And we'll talk a little bit about what his motivation is, why he's doing this, how he plans on going about it, what he's going to eat, and some other fun things. So, Zach, I'm giving you the floor. Give people a little bit more background as to what you do and how you do it with your fitness approach. And then let's get right to the heart of the matter, which is OMAD. And thank you for being here today.
It's an absolute pleasure. Huge fan of you as well, a good friend of mine. My approach is to fitness is predominantly from the school of art of functional movement, which you understand as well. I'm approaching this because it's something that I've always intuitively wanted to do. Even as a kid, when I didn't want to eat breakfast, I just knew it was something I didn't want to do, and I would eat later when I felt hungry. As I got older, I would take classes in college and took an interesting course in religion, actually, where we had an assignment about what all the 5 major faiths had in common. And I ended up writing a paper about the fact that a lot of people wrote about different themes. My theme was what they all have in common is they fast.
Very good point.
That is something that hit home with me. So as through college and after college, I started fasting, not in a scientific way, just in a listening to my body kind of way. And I noticed that when I fasted, I could perform at much higher levels. My EPOC level went up. I was a little bit more clear. And when I train fasted, which is a big theme of yours,
correct,
everything seemed to gel better in a short explanation. So as I got better about it, in 2003, I got more serious about it. So I've been doing this for a long time, and I want everybody to know that what I'm attempting to do is something that I've worked up to. So I always say that when you're fasting, you got to think about it like weight training. You don't start with the heaviest weight in the room, and you don't start with fasting in an extreme way. I always say skip a meal once in a while and then just tell me how you feel. And that's what I did years ago, and now I've worked up to this. And there are so many different ways to fast, and certain people have made it popular. But what I love most about fasting is you can take aspects of it and listen to your body and what about fasting works for you. So I've never taken notes about what I should or should not eat. I've only taken notes on what my body does not like, what my body does not appreciate consuming. And whenever I come across those things, I write those down. If my body loves it, I don't worry about it. So I've taken that approach to it, and then from 2003 onwards, I've kind of started building it up, and like taking on heavier weight. I go, well, if my body's responding well to this and none of my numbers are going down, none of my performance is going down, how can I kick it up in a reasonable way without getting too extreme? So I know people have listened to it online and go like, well, it sounds like he's doing something extreme. Or there's people who confuse it with something that has nothing to do with fasting, which I understand, but this is something I've done over time. It's not something I'm just jumping into. And I'm doing it kind of on my terms because I know it's very realistic, because you could do it for 48 hours. Some of our friends in the snake diet do it over 90, which all power to them. I'm trying to figure out how can I do it consistently over a year, because I'm a big believer in doing 12 resolutions a year, 7 for 5 years, and 5 for 10. And one of the things I would like to do in 2025 is deadlift 600 pounds at a body weight no greater than 165. And I know I need to let my body adjust to that. So I'm working on it now, because it's unrealistic now, but it could be realistic at 2025. So there's certain things that correspond to what I'm doing now that are what I want to do 5 years out, 10 years out. And so if you're listening to this, don't necessarily jump on it, but definitely understand that there are certain benefits to fasting that are phenomenal. And they're not just about weight loss or aesthetic things. There's things that are physiological, and those things are tremendous. And I'm about 3 days in, and I would say that the things that I'm noticing that are beneficial is EPOC for sure. My cardio and my ability to recover from my VO2 max has already gone up. I'm not as lethargic. Things that are more inconvenient are code brown. I'm definitely doing more trips to the bathroom. It's detox overdrive.
Code brown.
TMI, but it's part of what the thing is.
Well, I think that's a very understated. People are afraid to talk about that, but I think bowel movements are super important. It means that your system is working right. I think balancing your microbiome, your gut health, microbiome is basically all of the cells and the bacteria through your whole entire body. There's like 10 billion cells in the body that make up the microbiome. People automatically assume microbiome is just the gut, but because there's so much bacteria in the gut, that is why it's associated with microbiome. It technically means the whole body, but it doesn't really matter what you call it. The bottom line is, if you have good gut bacteria, then it means things are going to be moving well through your system, and your pipes are not going to be clogged. And we don't want to talk about that because it's disgusting or whatever, but it's just part of its nature. It's natural, and it should be talked about, and it should be talked about more often. And it's interesting that you're finding this benefit, because when I went 100% vegan, I noticed that I was making more trips to the bathroom. Not that I had a problem with that before, but in relation to fasting, usually when I do a 48-hour fast, the opposite starts happening. I feel like I'm more blocked up on the second day than the first day. Because I'm not eating anything, everything just kind of goes dormant. You know, when you start doing a longer fast, your organs start to go into atrophy. This is a little thing a lot of people don't know about. So they kind of start to break down. So for you people out there looking to go 2 days, 3 days, 4 days fasting, snake oil diet, whatever the heck you want to call it, I'm very particular about how I do fasting. And for me, it's water and sea salt only. But some people like to do the snake juice, and some people like to do black coffee and tea and like bulletproof coffee or whatever. And that's fine. More power to you. But in order to really get deep into autophagy, it is my belief that you have to be absolutely stellarly strict about what you consume. And to me, it's water and sea salt, because 100% of the benefits that I look for in fasting is all completely based around biohacking, reversing the aging process. It's got nothing to do with, zero to do with weight loss for me. Zero. And Zach brought up a great point when he said, when you first enter the world of fasting, it is definitely dip your toe in the water first. If you come to me and say, I want to start doing 18-hour fasts every day, or I want to do 16-hour fasts even, or 15 hours, And I ask you the question, well, how much fasting experience do you have? And you go, well, what do you mean by that? I'm like, well, have you done any fast before? Have you fasted for 12 hours? Have you like diligently decided to fast for 12 hours, for a week, for 5 days, for 3 days, for 2 days? Well, no, but 16 hours sounds easy. I'm like, it's not. If you've never fasted, I'll tell you what, the first time I did a 16-hour, like a dedicated 16-hour fast, I was literally on suicide watch in the gym. And I just kept looking at my watch all day. I was frantic. I was nervous. I was anxious. I was all these things. And I'm like, oh my God, this is so hard. I never thought 16 hours would be that hard. I promise you, it's not as easy as you think. And Zach had a good point. I basically default people to starting with 12 hours and doing that for literally a couple weeks until it becomes easy or easy-ish. And then you start to increase your time frame. Exactly like Zach said, it's just like fitness. If you come to me and you've never swung a kettlebell in your life and you saw me doing double kettlebell snatches and you want to do them because you want to get ripped like I am, you're not going to do a single arm kettlebell snatch for probably 6 months, first of all. So look at fasting the same exact way. Dip your toe in the water, start small and grow tall. I didn't mean to cut you off, but I had to take the floor there for a second to actually add to what you were saying.
No, it's absolutely true. And to me, it's all biology. If I can learn more about my body and how it works, then it's worth talking about. The most challenging thing so far has been the mind games, because a lot of people assume that if you're fasting, you're starving yourself, and that's not true. The time frame to actually go into starvation is much longer than people realize. But at the same time, you start doing it and your mind starts thinking, I'm going to do this for a year. So you have to think about, like, I'm going to do this for a year. It has to be realistic. And I'm not as hardcore as you, my friend. I do the tea and coffee. I kind of factor that in because I know I got to make it realistic.
Okay.
And I'm also
time out. So I was going to ask you that exact next question was going to be, how strict do you plan on being with OMAD, or what protocol do you plan on following with it? Obviously, weight loss I don't think is an issue for you, except you just want to maintain 160 doing your 600-pound deadlift. By the way, I was super proud of myself today. I never do beefcake exercises usually because I don't feel they're necessary for what I'm looking to do in life and like outside the gym. I'm always in I want to be able to ski really well. I want to have good balance. I want to prevent injury. I want to have good posture and stuff. So my workouts resemble that. I'm heavy, hardcore kettlebells, body weight, suspension trainers, pull-up bars, that kind of jazz, dumbbells, free weights. So I want to know exactly what you're going to do with OMAD as far as the coffee, the tea, the bulletproof, the whole 9 yards, exogenous ketone salts. What do you plan on doing? What approach do you plan on taking? Because there are several approaches you can take. And again, I don't really bastardize anything. There's a time and place for the tea and the coffee and the exogenous ketones and the bulletproofs and all those things. It's very case dependent on what you want. If you are 100 pounds overweight and weight loss is your main priority and goal, then I say more power to you. Go with the coffee and the tea and the whole shebang. This is on a personal level. If reversing the aging process is your main objective, you don't want to lose weight, and you just want to get the massive benefits that fasting has to offer, then I would say go as clean as a whistle and just go water and sea salt. So Zach, I'm giving the floor back to you. Tell everybody what you plan on eating, drinking, whatever, and do you plan on supplementing or doing anything like that?
No supplements. I'm not into that. I will be using kosher salt. Because I prefer it, and it's flaky, so I can put it on my tongue for getting magnesium and other things that I need. I'm going to be doing water. I do kind of like using mineral water, but I understand that does spike some need for hunger, so I'm going to keep that in check. And I'm not going to be as extreme because I understand it's just a leap year too. I'm going to factor that in. But I gotta think about how I can progress this. Plus, as a dad, I gotta think about how I can do it in a way that doesn't make me pass those habits on to my kids necessarily. I really want that to be something that they choose themselves or they figure out for themselves. So I need to, I don't want to be at a lunch and go Dad's not eating. No, I want to be able to do it in such a way that they can make that choice themselves. But I will occasionally have some alcohol, like on holidays. I want to still be social and do those things. I will try to only eat in a 4-hour time frame, usually 5 to 9 every night. And I'm going to be hard on myself that if I don't make that time frame, I got to suck it up and just skip a whole nother day. So if I screw up and I don't eat and life gets in the way, because life gets in the way. That's a lot of people don't realize. It's like you start these things, life gets in the way. And I know that if I miss that time frame and somebody brings over a bunch of tri-tip and a bunch of cool stuff, I'm going to be like, tough for me. I need to go to the next day. And the next time I will not miss my time frame.
That's when you get out the sea salt and you punish yourself. Oh yeah, I got to eat sea salt instead of that nice tri-tip over there. And it smells so good, but I made a pact.
Yeah. And it's about sticking to that. And it's, if I'm not committed to it, then why am I doing this? But at the same time, I need to allow some parameters in there that allow me to still enjoy social gatherings and other things. And there's certain things I just enjoy in life. So I don't want to be so strict that I do it. Now, if I'm doing it for 72 hours, yeah, I'll be really strict. But for 366 days, I got to figure out how I can balance it out. And that's why I don't want to go to the extreme of not doing tea and coffee, but I want to do it where I can show that you can make this your own thing. You can take aspects of it and take on principles, and those principles will allow you to achieve it over a long period of time. And if you don't do it the way I do it, that's fine. But the principles will give you great results. And even 3 days in, I'm already getting great results. And those results will turn into other aspects in the gym or life. And by the end of this year, I'm hoping that it's just so much a part of what I do that my body wouldn't know otherwise. It just it adapts. Mm-hmm. We slowly get better at it.
Well, I've got 2 questions for you.
Okay.
You danced around one of them, sort of. Do you have a specific time that you plan on eating said meal on a daily basis? And I'm going to go one step farther and say, are you scheduling the actual amount of fasting time in between the meals? So, for example, some people tell me, oh, yeah, I do OMAD 4 days a week. And I'm like, okay, well, 4 days in a row, 4 days speckled, alternating, how you do it? They're like, I do 4 days in a row. I'm like, okay, well, what time do you eat? They're like, I fast 24 hours a day. I'm like, well, what time do you eat? I ate at 5 today. So tomorrow I eat at 5. Tomorrow I'll eat at 5. The next day I'll eat at 5. I'm like, you're not doing 24 hours. You start your meal at 5 when you finish it. Well, sometimes 6, 6:30, sometimes even 7 o'clock. I'm like, then you're doing 22 hours or 23 hours. There's a difference between 22 and 24. Water is really, really, really freaking hot at 210 degrees. But if it goes 2 more degrees, guess what happens? It starts boiling. So there's a fine line between really hot water and boiling water can make hard-boiled eggs, and really hot water can't. Well, it probably can, but it'll take longer. So fasting is kind of the same way. You can push that edge to 22 hours, 23 hours, but there's a switch that gets flipped exactly at 24 hours that you're not going to get if you eat at 22. So if you look me in the eye and tell me you're doing 24 hours of fasting, you doggone better well be doing 24 hours of fasting. If you finish at 6:30, you're going to have to push it ahead. So that's why I would suggest people start their meals earlier in the day, 3, 4 o'clock. So my question is, do you have a specific time frame in mind that you want to eat this said meal every day? And then the other question was, what is your main objective to do the OMAD for a year? Is it just for a mental challenge to see if you can do it? Is there specific benefits you're trying to get? Or what are the main reasons, your main motivators there? So if you can answer those 2 questions.
Okay, so time frame wise, I have a big motto in my gym of the 3 to 9 rule. I go, if you're going to do 3 reps, I want you to do 3 reps really well. If you get up towards 9, then we got to think about changing the load. So I don't make it exact. I don't like to prescribe reps, just like I don't like to prescribe times. Like, I get up usually at 3 a.m. every day. I usually work out, shower, and then I'm at work at 5. So sometimes I'm already been up 9 hours before people have lunch. So my time frame is to eat between 5 p.m. and 9 p.m. And of course, if life gets in the way and it's 9:20, I'm going to be like, I got to suck it up and I'm going to skip a day. And I know that that's going to be tough, but that's mainly for me to realize that I need to follow a schedule and I need to stick with what I said. My main benefit for doing this is the long term. I already know after over a decade of fasting that it's beneficial. I know that I can incrementally work up to something that's more advanced, and I'm just logically taking it to the next step. And with the goals I have for the next 5 years and 10 years from now, I know that they will be more realistic if I can achieve this, but I know that they will be unrealistic if I don't do this first.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to stay as lean as possible. I also want to get into more rock climbing stuff. And as we all know, 3 pounds in rock climbing could be the difference between life and death. So I want to stay as lean as possible. And I find that this is something that works. The results show, the science backs it up. And if I can stick to it, then everything else I want to do is going to be much more likely. And then maybe it might brush off on some people as, well, I saw the results he has. And I know that people will probably focus on aesthetic things. Oh, he lost this amount of weight. But hopefully they will see more in that. But they usually online will only see the aesthetic stuff. But that might at least make them interested in the fact that if your digestive system is always working on breaking down food, then you're always breaking down food and not breaking records in what you want to do.
Amen, brother.
I want to break records in what I do instead of always breaking down food. And on a side note, I do a lot of cold weather training and hot weather training. I try to condition my skin and my body to deal with extreme heat, and I try to condition my body to deal with extreme cold. I do a lot of barefoot running. I do barefoot running in the snow. And what I've noticed with fasting is, and this is not scientific, this is just my experience, when you're sending so much blood to your digestive system and breaking down food, it's really hard to keep your core temperature up. But when you're doing extreme weather training, which is part of life and part of a lot of extreme activities, when I'm running barefoot in the snow, when I'm doing meditation like Wim Hof methods out in the ice when it's below freezing or other workouts like that, I'm able to maintain my core temperature much better fasted than when I'm trying to break down 3,000 calories of stuff I don't necessarily need. So,
okay, I have a couple things to add to everything you just said. First of all, I have a couple points of interest that are in stark contrast to what you just said, which I'll get to in a second. And the other thing is, you basically, that's all biohacking that you're referring to. The extreme heat, the extreme cold. It's called hormesis, people, by the way. Hormesis is a condition where you push your body to a certain level that you have to like trigger it or just punch it for a little while and then take your foot off the gas. But if you put your foot on the gas and keep it on the gas, it can be deadly and it could possibly kill you. Exposing your body to extreme cold is one thing. If you do it for a short amount of time, it can bring massive benefits to the body. If you expose your body to extreme heat or saunas or hot water or whatever, extreme heat, and do it for a short amount of time, you can get massive benefits from it. Fasting, that's hormesis actually. It's a biohack. When you trigger it and do it to a certain extent, it's fine. It can bring you massive benefits. You can kill yourself. Starvation mode, I don't really think it exists. I mean, you got to be like no food and water for literally 10 to 12 days. I've done the research. I've talked to scientists, doctors about this and everything. They all say the same thing. You can literally do a dry fast for 10 to 12 days before you're dead. Now, I would say if you tried to do a dry fast, I would start with 24 hours and definitely no more than that. But if you're like out in the desert stranded with no food or water or drink or anything, you can probably, it depends on your body fat, but you can probably get away with about 10 to 12 days before you die. So that's a little backstory of what Zach said. Now, you saying that you can tolerate the cold better and the extreme heat when you're in a fasted state. Totally opposite with me, 100% opposite. And most cases, yeah. What ends up happening is your thyroid basically just shuts down. It's your body temperature regulator. Much like I said before about your organs start to go into atrophy after about 30 to 36 hours of fasting. So they're just sitting there dormant. Nothing's happening. So they just kind of like, they just start shriveling up. That's how it happens. And then when you start refeeding again, you get this massive stem cell dump inside your body. And that's when the organs start to come back to life and they actually experience the benefits then. But the longer you fast, the more dormant they become. So for me, even when I do 48-hour fast, I am absolutely freezing after about 36 hours. When I wake up in the morning on my second day, even the night that I go to bed after about, say, 28 hours of fasting, I am freezing. I'm in bed with like all the covers over me, and I'm like, I'm still shivering. And I have found that the lower your body fat percentage is, the more that of effect that has on you. So to me, it's the complete opposite of what you said. It's interesting that you experience the complete opposite, though, when you say if you're in calorie load, you're totally fine. And then when I break my fast and I start eating, literally within 5 minutes, I'm as warm as can be. And I'm like, my body's like right back to normal. So I find that interesting that you find the opposite to be true.
I'm just speaking from my experience. Yeah, I've been able to go longer, and I do farmers walks below freezing,
I've
barefoot,
seen
no
you.
shirt.
I've
Yeah,
seen you running up the stuff. I've seen you running on that hill in bare feet. I've seen you at the farmers walks on the cold pavement. I love it. That's great stuff.
Those are all fasted. So when I take notes on that incrementally, they've all been increased. Now again, if I eat a bunch of food, I get the food coma. I just want to go to bed. So it's something I just have to say from my experience. I'm able to regulate a lot more things, and just like being more sharp, being able to do more cardio, all my performance level seems to go up more and more every time I do something in a fasted state. And that includes extremes, just from my experience.
Okay. I've got another question for you. What is the longest duration that you've fasted? And do you plan on, during this 360-day challenge of yours, 365, do you plan on doing any extended fasting or prolonged fasting throughout it? We know you're going to do one meal a day, but do you have in your mind like, oh, maybe once a month I'm going to do a 48-hour fast, or once a quarter I'm going to do a 72-hour fast? Do you plan on going to an extended phase with this? And up to this point in your life, what's the longest you've gone fasting? And I'm talking like legit fasting with no coffee, no tea, no nothing.
Straight up, sea salt and water. The longest I've gone is 52 hours.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, I've done 52 hours. It was very humbling experience for me. I'm a bottomless pit, so I do enjoy eating when it comes up.
I've seen you eat. I've seen you drink.
Yeah,
I can vouch for you.
When it's time to be around the table, I embrace it the same way I embrace moving. But I want to see how it develops. I think right now my goal would be that why I'm doing the workouts and fasting. I want to know that if I miss my window, I gotta just keeping myself honest, I'm going to miss it. So maybe I'll do a bit longer. And then if my body responds well to that, I might experiment with going longer, but I don't have any set out modes. I really want to put myself in the petri dish right here and just see people understand how I responded to the experience. And if that experience leads to longer fasting, or when I eat my one meal, maybe I'm eating even less, or maybe I'm just eating a huge pan of like 2,200 calories of stuff. I want to see how that develops, because I don't know the answer to that. I'm just putting myself out there as an experiment to see if am I going to get weaker? I doubt it, but I want people to see if I'm willing to put myself out there, maybe I'll go more extreme. Maybe I'll start eating less. Maybe I'll have to keep it exactly the way it is, but I'm willing to do the duration of a year.
Okay, cool. And you just led me to the next question I was going to ask you. What food do you plan on eating? First of all, do you follow any particular keto, paleo, Atkins, Mediterranean, vegan, vegetarian, potluck, mixed scramble? I don't know. Do you follow a particular, are you dogmatic about any particular type of diet plan? Caveman, anything like that right now currently? And then what do you plan on eating during this time frame? And do you plan on doing experiments with what you're eating as well?
I'm glad you asked that, because for me, diets have always been temporary. That's been my problem with it. I've always focused on strength, because when people ask me for diet advice, I go, well, you need to try ones and see if they work for you. But in my experience, they're all temporary. And the only thing that's been not temporary for me has been fasting. There's a way I can meld that and make it a long-term thing. In terms of food, I'm not dogmatic at all. I tend to stay away from red meat. I tend to do more white meat, but I love fruit and vegetables. And I also just love to eat when it's available. So after fasting for a long period of time, I might eat whatever's on the table, but I don't do anything very strict. The only thing I'm strict about is how I can make it a habitual thing. If that's my diet, it's how can I make this a habit? Mm-hmm. Because it seems to be showing results. And can I make it over the course of a year, just like over the course of a year of maintaining your fitness? Can I make it something where like this is something I can maintain, and not make it a dogmatic thing? I really don't want to do it that way. Mm-hmm. And then of course, if it works for me, it might inspire others, and I wouldn't want them to do the same thing I did, but maybe it might just inspire them to think about fasting, because in my experience with clients, they have had success because I don't tell them what to eat, but they like the pattern of opening up their day and coming to the gym fasted. And through experience, they've noticed that that part works. And then I'm not telling them to do anything specific except give a little bit of time between those meals.
Okay. Well, I've seen this man eat a couple times, one of which was at the Spur up here on Main Street in Park City when he came out to a workshop I did a few years ago. And he proceeded on a Sunday afternoon to put down about 3 or 4 beers like they were like water, and then a huge cheeseburger, I think it was bacon and onions and stuff on it, and then like this huge massive amount of French fries, and it was just like a speck of dust. And I was like, and I gotta be honest, I'm impressed. I'm impressed with your eating ethic and the amount of volume of food you can eat. And for some reason, I've always been fascinated with people that can eat a high amount of food and maintain lean body fat and maintain strength and everything, like it doesn't even faze them. So you are definitely one of those people. And then when we went to Connecticut, I seen you do the same thing, except we had that little incident, the Mexican food incident, which is still hilarious to me now.
Oh, it's a great story.
I think we should bring that story up in 2 seconds. But look, we'll come back to that story. We're going to come back to the Mexican restaurant. But 2 o'clock in the afternoon, you got one client left. Is your mind going, let's see, what should I make for dinner tonight? Or is your mind going, I'm going to eat what Mika prepares? Or is your mind going, I'm going to stop and get XYZ at the supermarket? Or is your mind going, oh, I'm craving pizza and I'm going to get pizza tonight? So I want to know like those specifics for all the people at home who might be interested in going OMAD or doing something similar to it even a few days a week. What is the psychology behind what you're going to eat? Is there any? Because for me, I strict 18 hours basically a day, and I'm always thinking, what's my first meal going to be? And when that one's over, I'm like, what's my second meal going to be? Now, maybe it's because of my disordered eating history that I'm more meticulous about it, but I'm specifically trying to reverse the aging process, work on my gut health, and I know that everything starts from the center and goes outwards. Our center chakra, inside and out. Core is the outside, the core is the most important part of the body, in my opinion. And on the inside, it's obviously the good bacteria in the gut, the flora, as it's technically called, and the good bacteria, and gut health. So I'm always like, what can I do to improve my gut health? Because if you improve your gut health, everything else will fall into balance. And I meticulously figure out what I'm going to eat all the time. It's not even a question for me. So it sounds like your approach is going to be done way more loosely. Am I correct?
In a sense, to keep it realistic, I know I could be extreme. I've already tried extreme for 52 hours, and I need to figure out how I can make it over the course of the year. So I've got really strict rules, but they're not purist rules. I need to figure out how I can make it work. And you mentioned my wife, Mika. When she does anything, it's fantastic. And her cooking skills are way above mine. So when I cook,
wow, awesome.
Yeah, it's like a dining experience. When she cooks, it's like a 5-star dining experience. So it's really, really hard for me to turn down anything she throws down on the table, because it's amazing. But I don't have the mental problems at the end of the day. What I've been experiencing is it's thrown off my sleep a little bit, because I would eat so much and then just sleep like a baby. And now I'm definitely less calorie load. So at night, I'm a little bit more restless. My mind's thinking I'm still hungry. So it's just more about checking that out and knowing that it's strictly a mental issue. It's not physiological. I'm not actually hungry. I just think I need to get up and eat something. And that's been a little bit rough, but I know that incrementally it will go away. It hits me more at night. Like when I've been asleep for an hour and I'm like, I think I'm still hungry. And I'm like, no, you're not. You're not hungry. You're not hungry at all. You'll be fine. But it doesn't hit me in the middle of the day, which is good because I'm working.
Yeah, true. And that's a good element of distraction. And it works for some people, and some people it makes them ravenous for some reason, working or whatever. But anything you can distract your mind with. And also,
and that's why I think people snack so much, is they just feel like they have to eat something, and really it's just a mind game. You absolutely, you're really not. You just need to stay busy.
Yeah, and I want to clarify something to all you people listening out there at home. Fasting does not make you tired, and it does not make you more hungry. Your body is used to eating a certain time every single day. So if you eat 6 meals a day and you start at 6 a.m. in the morning, and then all of a sudden you go to 2 meals a day and you don't eat until 11 o'clock in the morning, I promise you, you're going to be ravenous at 6 a.m., 8:30 a.m., and whenever those meals were occurring in the front part for several days to maybe a couple weeks, because your ghrelin, which is your hunger stimulating hormone, is through the roof. Your ghrelin goes up because your body is used to eating at a certain hour, and when you don't eat at that certain hour, ghrelin just spikes through the roof. But over the course of time, ghrelin starts coming down and leptin starts coming up, and leptin is your hunger satiating hormone. That's what stabilizes your appetite. So eventually, this is what happens. Balance occurs. You always want to aim for balance. I think you should aim for balance with your meal composition and with your fasting protocols. And when you first start going into fasting, that's why I always suggest starting out with 12 hours and then slowly increasing your fasting windows over time. And then you can slowly bring everything back into balance. So when you just jump right into the ice cold shores of the Pacific Northwest outside of Oregon, you're going to freeze really badly. But once you do it for several times, you're going to get used to it. And fasting is the same way. Your hormones will come into balance, your hunger will start to disappear. And the longer you go fasted, the less ghrelin is going to be high, and your blood sugar is going to come down, your insulin is going to stabilize, your hunger will disappear. When I do the 48-hour fast, even now, like when I get to 16 hours, sometimes I'm a little hungry in the morning because I work out first thing, and then I still keep fasting afterward. And everyone's like, you got to eat right after your workout or you're going to catabolize. Does it look like my muscles are catabolizing? Does it look like it, Zach? No.
You're doing fine.
I think I'm doing fine. I think I'm doing just fine. So the correct answer is that's bunk, and don't believe everything you've been force-fed, no pun intended, your whole entire life. Look a little deeper and play the tape all the way to the end. So your appetite will start to decline the longer you fast. And you know what happens to your energy levels? Through the roof. 16 to 20 hours that's the spot. You get past like 20 hours, your appetite is going to be lower. 24 hours, forget it. Your appetite is going to be very low. And after a while, your body just gets used to it, and your energy starts going through the roof. Your brain function will go through the roof. Your ability to focus and concentrate and your eyesight will go through the roof after about 20 hours. This is anecdotal evidence that I have figured out for me. Now, everybody's going to be different, but I do know that like everyone that I have talked to and that I've counseled and that I have given advice to on fasting, it's usually the 16-hour range. When you get into there somewhere, that's when all the magic starts to happen. All those benefits I just talked about, and it just keeps going up and up and up. By the time you get to 48 hours on your second day, you're just like, you're high as a kite. It feels like you just drank a pot of coffee without the big crash associated with caffeine. It's absolutely amazing. Now, first of all, do you have anything to add to what I just said? And if not, we're going to the Mexican restaurant next.
What I would add to what you're saying is the fact that it's not prescribed. I'm a big believer in not prescribing things.
Yes.
I'm not a big fan of pharmaceutical companies or prescriptions.
Amen,
I'm not
brother.
a big fan of like 10 sets of 10, 5 sets of 10. Just sounds official. I really like people to listen to their body. So we all have to deal with gravity. And when you go to the gym, you're dealing with gravity all the time, and then you're adding resistance to that. So you're slowly conditioning your body to handle more stress under load. And when people bring up food, I know I'm not a nutritionist, but I know that if you're handling food, it's the reverse. You condition your body to thrive on less. And as I got more and more interested in fasting, by no means an expert, I'm putting myself through an experiment. As I conditioned my body to thrive on less, the numbers went up. Strength went up. My resiliency in my joints, ligaments, and tendons went up. I was not as lethargic, and you don't feel like you're a slave to food. Kind of like when you're young and you leave the house and you got just a carload worth of stuff, and you get older and you start getting a bunch of stuff, and you realize like, I really didn't need this much stuff. Food's not pretty much the same way. Like less is more. Yeah. It's kind of a Zen thing. You have to find that Zen on your own, but you really don't need that much stuff, and you really don't need that much food if you want to handle more resistance.
That's awesome perspective. You just put it in a very good perspective. It's called the minimalist lifestyle, and that's basically what I lead too. I like to be as minimalist as possible, because why have so much baggage and so much stuff around you all the time? It just makes things so complicated. That's why I like to run barefoot, and I don't like to wear jackets in the winter, and the whole shebang. Like everything, we're kind of like exactly like doing the same kind of stuff, just in different areas. So that just makes things so much simpler. And also when you get into the longer fasts, your intestines produce a high amount of stem cells. This has been actually scientifically proven.
Exactly.
Like you said a lot of stuff in the beginning. I mean, you were quoting studies basically. I've read it all too. Everything you were saying earlier in the very beginning about the benefits and stuff. It's all been out there. It's common knowledge. But when you continually boost these stem cells in your gut, that's going to help your digestion. So I always enforce the people to eat a lot of prebiotic foods, not probiotics, because prebiotic foods feed the probiotics, which actually are in your gut already. A lot of people don't know that. Like, I got to take a good probiotic. I was partying all week for the holidays. I'm like, no, you don't. What you need to do is lay a good foundation, start doing some longer fasts, and you start needing to take prebiotic foods in conjunction with probiotic foods, because then you're feeding the good bacteria already, and then you can replenish some of the good bacteria once the prebiotics are down there fermenting in your gut and producing better bacteria altogether. So after a 24-hour fast, that's what I was saying before, there's a fine line between 22 and 24 hours. It has been scientifically proven that after 24 hours, your gut produces a high amount of stem cells, which helps realign your microbiome in your stomach, and it helps a lot of people that have digestive issues. And I've seen it right before my eyes. It works like magic. So that's going to be that's why I always say try to hit 24 hours if you're going to do an OMAD diet. I tell people this. I'm like, try to eat earlier in the afternoon so you're not lingering late into the night, because I'm not a fan of late night eating either. And I don't care if you're doing one meal a day. If you eat at 10 o'clock at night or 11 o'clock at this big old kale salad with organic chicken breast on it and beans and quinoa, and you have an apple and you have a sprouted bread with like avocado toast made with sprouted bread, you're still eating late at night. And that's disrupting your sleep cycle, your immunity, your organ function, your glucagon levels with your liver. There's 1,000 things that are happening at night that I don't like the idea of. That's why I always try to encourage people to finish by 7 o'clock at night. You're an anomaly, so you could be probably different than that, and your experiment is going to be a little bit different. But that to me,
that's what I really want to convey to people, is that it can be tailored to listening to your own body. A lot of these things are listening to your own body. It's like the idea of eating 3 meals a day is somebody just made it up. And
more or less,
yeah, they just made it up, and somebody goes like, oh, that's what everybody tells me to do, so I guess I need to eat 3 meals a day. And then they started talking about eating 6 meals a day because somebody just made it up.
Someone made it up, yep.
Yeah, but those are all new things. Fasting is time tested, and it goes back thousands of years. And even people who disagree, like the 5 major religions of the world, seem to agree on that. So it's one of those things that I like history, and it's been working.
Yeah, absolutely. So. And I love history too. I study the history of exercise and fitness, the history of everything. Al Capone, prohibition, and fasting. And yes, it's true. It's like all the religions back in the day, they would set out a fasting thing. Ramadan, I mean, that still happens. I have friends who are Jewish, and they fast for 24 hours once a month. I have friends who are very strict LDS. They fast for 24 hours once a month. I think it's once a month. Every religion, I mean, I was brought up Catholic, and they had their form of fasting, which wasn't really fasting at all, in my opinion. They just gave up meat. They went through Lent or whatever. You know, all you Catholic people out there, you know all about Lent and giving up, sacrificing something for 40 days, usually on Fridays, but some people do it for the whole 40 days. Every single religion out there has some form of fasting involved with it, and it has been around forever. So those who dispute fasting, I beg to differ. It works great for me. It works great for Zach. And I think it's one of the best things you could possibly do for your system. Go ahead.
And you mentioned the history of fitness. I always think that if you want to go into this field and do fitness, being even a minor in history is a good idea, because everything that works has always worked. So when somebody tells me they have a new exercise, I don't know if I want to be a guinea pig to a new exercise. I don't know if I like things that have worked for at least 300 years or more. And same with fasting. It's worked for at least 300 years or more.
Yeah, absolutely. 5,000 years probably.
Yeah, exactly. So it's if it's tested, I'll look into it. And this is one of those things that's proven itself over time.
Brilliant. Love it. Now, let's talk about the Mexican restaurant. I will set the table for you, and you can take it from there. I do not remember the name of this Mexican restaurant, but April of 2018, it'll be 2 years ago this April, Zach and I were out in Connecticut with our good friend Kelly Manzoni and my dad, and she was hosting Art of Functional Movement with our good friend Paul, why am I drawing a blank right now?
Paul Gray and
Paul Gray and Pablo Veduto. So Art of Functional Movement, we're all out there. We had an awesome 3-day workshop. And then this one night, we went out to eat at this Mexican restaurant. So Zach is sitting across the table from me, and he got a whole smorgasbord of food. I think there was raviolis of some kind, like some kind of Mexican ravioli. I'll let him elaborate on what he was eating. But next thing you know, Zach kind of puts his head down like this, and I see him getting like this nervous look on his face, and he's sweating. And he's like, I got to go to the bathroom. I'm like, okay. I'm like, we're going to get our checks, and then we'll be right. We'll meet you out front. Zach disappears, and he's gone for, I swear, 30 minutes. And I was like, looking at my watch, and I'm looking around the whole place for Zach. I'm like, did he get abducted? Did he pass out? What happened? Absolutely disappears, vanishes. 30 minutes later, he comes walking out of the bathroom. His hair is soaked. It looked like he just went for a run around the neighborhood of Connecticut or something like that. And that's exactly what I thought he did, because he had his workout gear on still. And his clothes were completely soaked. His hair was soaked, and he was just dripping wet in sweat. And I go, dude, you okay? And you're like, oh, no, man. I don't know. I must have ate something funny. I'm so sick right now. Let's just go. And I was like, holy crap. He was in there for 30 minutes. No pun intended. So, Zach, take the floor and explain to everybody exactly what happened that night.
Well, remember, previously that day in the workshop, we were learning about the spinal bow. So being able to do diaphragmatic breathing, pressurize your abdomen, compress your spine for load.
Yes.
Which you'll get more core engagement. And a lot of people teach it the other way, where they have extension and it causes compression in the spine, and you can create your own mechanism to compress the spine. And that was the theme of the day. And then fast forward, we go to a restaurant, and I unfortunately ate the wrong stuff and got food poisoning, which, I think every listener can relate to. We've all been there. You sweat a little bit.
It was more than a little bit.
And I lost my cookies. And then I was like, we were in the car, and I was like, wow, Connecticut has so many trees. I mean, Oregon has a lot of trees, but Connecticut has so many trees because you got that moving stuff. And I proceeded to get sick, long story short. And when I came back to the next day of the workshop and everybody was talking about the spinal bow, I was like, I actually got excellent reinforcement on that, because I created the spinal bow to throw up. It's still part of a mechanism for your body. And man, the abs were off the charts. So in learning part of the process to protect your spine, I was also learning that, when you throw up, it's a pretty good ab workout as well.
Wow. So you had the default spinal bow from the workshop transfer across to real life situations. So it was showed for sure that it was transferable and functional.
Yeah, just to reinforce the lesson, because it was like, one you want and one you don't want, but your body does the same thing.
Well, I'm glad they made it out of there alive. And
yes.
I've never seen food poisoning hit that fast, though. That's what I was shocked about. It usually takes a day or so to kick in.
It hit fast.
What was it that you ate again? And do you think there was something that tasted kind of off, or what was it? Was there an inclination, anything? Or
no, it's just I went with the stereotypical enchiladas, and it just didn't work out.
Wow. Obviously it didn't work out.
My body did not respond. It was like, we need to get out.
You didn't buy that.
This is not for you. Maybe it's just, body didn't like it. You
didn't actually buy that $50 meal there in Connecticut. You rented it for about 30 minutes.
I rented it. Yeah.
And give it right back to let's not go down there.
Let's not go down that road. But that restaurant's probably just fine. I think it was just one of those things that happens to everybody.
Yeah. My food tasted great. And luckily I didn't get sick, but it is what it is. All right. We're going to wrap this up. It has been a pleasure talking to you, Zach. Is there any final words you have for everybody? And tell everyone where they can find you and your contact information, et
I'm the owner and founder of Dynamic Fitness. We are located in Klamath Falls, Oregon. We're really close to the California border, central in Oregon. And you can reach me through Facebook or Instagram. I do everything through that. And I don't do websites or business cards or anything like that. I just started. I'm coming up on a decade here in April. I've been open for a decade now, and it started with just one client and then just word of mouth, and now it's up to 52 clients, thankfully. So it's been building just by results
and word of mouth testimonials.
Yeah. So if it works for them, then they tell their friends, and I've taken it from there. And I know that people will forget what you said. People will forget what you did, but people will not forget how you made them feel. And I think that if you're going to open a gym, that's the way you want to start it.
Awesome. Well, Zach, thank you very much for exchanging some information with me today and being my guest. I absolutely loved chatting with you. You're motivating, you're inspiring to many people. Keep up the great work. Keep doing your fun exercises. Keep the OMAD going. Keep us posted on how it's going. And everyone out there, please follow him and his journey on Facebook. He'll be popping things in and out here and there. And that's all I got to say. You're a stand-up citizen. I respect you a lot, and I feel honored to be your friend as well.
Likewise, my friend. Likewise.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. This has been the Pine Palm Superfoods and Train for Longevity podcast. My name is Kay Rail. I am the Chief Fitness Advisor for said group that I was just talking about. Make sure to like and share all of our videos. Go to our YouTube page, subscribe to it, because we have lots of great information on there. Make sure to follow Zach. Make sure to follow me. Make sure to pop into our page on Facebook as well, Pine Palm Superfoods and Train for Longevity over the age of 40, it's called. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to hit me up anytime. Also hit up Mr. Zach Blain as well, and we will be in touch with you. So have a wonderful day or night or morning, and always think forward. Just remember that. Till next time, this is K-Rail.